Most men don't fall because they're weak. They fall because they're blind to certain women, to the smile, the affection, the attention. They mistake it all for love, when it's just leverage. But here's the truth most men will never hear. The man who needs to be chosen will always be controlled, not because women are evil, but because nature rewards strength, not submission. And in relationships, just like in politics, the one who holds emotional power dominates. This video is not about blaming women. It's about exposing the illusions that weaken men, the fantasies they build in silence, the lies they tell themselves in the name of love, the ways they self-destruct, thinking they're being noble. It's about clarity. It's about strategy. It's about becoming a man who can love without being conquered. Here's what you'll get in this video. You'll learn how to stop being manipulated without even realizing it. You'll understand how women test for strength without saying a word. And most importantly, you'll see how to protect your soul without closing your heart. Watch until the end. Every part of this video connects like pieces of a map. Miss one, and you'll miss the full picture. Because what you're about to hear won't just change how you see women. It'll change how you see yourself, how you lead, how you love, and how you stop being played. Let's begin. Rule 1. Stop building your identity on her validation. Most men aren't dominated. They surrender. Not in war, in silence, in the presence of a woman they barely know. She smiles, and they call it fate. She shows affection, and they call it love. She gives attention, and they abandon their standards, shift their priorities, rewrite their values, all for a feeling. But here's the truth. That's not love. That's emotional slavery. Because when your identity depends on her approval, she doesn't need to take your power. You give it away. In relationships, you meet a woman and she becomes your mission. You ignore the disrespect. You overlook contradictions. You start giving more than you want to. Not because she asked, but because you hope she'll make you feel worthy. Imagine this in real life. You're out with friends. A beautiful woman laughs at your joke. Suddenly you try harder. You speak louder. You change your behavior. Not because it's true to you, but because you want her to keep laughing. That's not confidence. That's performance. Here's a Machiavellian shift you can make right now. Detach your identity from being needed. Ask yourself one question before investing anything into a woman. Does this woman strengthen what I'm building, or distract from it? And act accordingly, because Machiavelli said it best. He who builds his power on the affection of others builds on sand. In other words, if your sense of masculinity depends on her feelings, then you don't lead. You follow. And the man who follows her mood will never control his mission. Rule 2. Stop projecting. Start seeing clearly. Most men don't fall for a woman. They fall for the movie they create in their head. She smiles once and you see loyalty. She texts first and you think it's fate. She gets distant and you panic like something real was taken. But the truth? She never played a role. You just gave her one. In relationships, she gives you early warmth. You call her different. So you speed things up, drop your standards, open your heart without checking the terrain. Then you blame her when the fantasy collapses. But it wasn't her who changed. It was you who never verified what was real. In real life, you're at work. She compliments your shirt. You light up, lose focus, start imagining a future she never signed up for. That's not attraction. That's self-sabotage. Here's a strategic shift you can make immediately. When a woman shows interest, observe. Don't escalate. Stay grounded. Watch what she does when she's not trying to impress. See if her values match her words, if her actions match her attention. Because the Machiavellian man doesn't move on emotion. He moves on evidence. As he'd put it, the wise man acts in such a way that when fortune changes, he is prepared. Control your fantasy, or your fantasy will control you. Rule 3. Don't play a role you didn't write. Most men think they're choosing a woman, but in reality, they're just trying to match the fantasy she already built. She's not meeting you. She's looking to cast someone in a role. The hero, the therapist, the dream guy, the emotional crutch. And if you fit the part, she locks in. Until one day, you act like yourself, and she says, "You've changed." But the truth is, you didn't change. You just stopped playing the character. In real life, she says she admires your hustle. So instead of staying grounded, you start oversharing, over-explaining, trying to impress her with your ambition. But the more you try to win her, the less magnetic you become. If you're in a relationship, she makes you feel special by saying, "You're not like the other guys." You start softening up, agreeing more, becoming emotionally available on demand. But over time, she loses respect. Why? Because she didn't fall for who you are. She fell for the performance. Here's the Machiavellian solution. Refuse to play a role you didn't choose. Define yourself first. If she can't accept your truth, your pace, your presence, let her go, as Machiavelli warned. It is much safer to be feared than loved when one of the two must be lacking. In modern terms, being respected for your authenticity is far more stable than being liked for your performance. Because once you stop acting, the approval disappears. Never trade your power for applause. You're not an actor in her movie. You're the author of your own life. Rule 4. She's not testing you to destroy you. She's testing to see if you'll destroy yourself. Most women don't test you to hurt you. They test you to see you, to feel if what's in front of them is real, or just another man who folds under pressure. She doesn't need a plan. It's instinct. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel what she can't control. And if she can break you easily, she won't trust you. She'll lose respect, even if she still sleeps next to you. Here's how those tests look in the real world. You're out at a restaurant. She starts being distant or cold for no reason. Most men rush to fix the mood, with jokes, attention, validation. But every time you chase her warmth, you prove you need it more than your own center. If you're in a relationship, imagine this. She cancels plans last minute. You tell her, "It's okay, don't worry." You think you're being calm, but you're not. You're training her to see you as a man without boundaries. Here's your next strategic move. Hold the line. Don't chase. Don't explain. Don't negotiate with emotional bait. Pause. Observe. Respond later, not in the heat of the test. Let silence reveal your strength. As Machiavelli would put it, he who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against. In other words, if she feels your power, she'll stop testing your weakness. Because power isn't loud, power is still. It's the man who doesn't move unless it's on his terms. Rule 5. You weren't born to kneel. You were built to stand. Modern men are taught that love means sacrifice. And yes, true love involves effort. But the moment your sacrifice becomes self-erasure, you're no longer loving. You're submitting. You give everything, hoping she'll see your value. But instead of drawing her closer, you push her away. Why? Because you've stopped being solid. You've become soft clay, shaped by her moods, her needs, her opinions. Machiavelli warned us, it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Not because fear is cruelty, but because fear commands respect. And without respect, love dies. Let's look at real life. At work, your manager dumps last-minute tasks on you. You say yes every time, thinking it proves your loyalty. But all it really shows? That your time is cheap, that your yes means nothing. If you're in a relationship, you give more and more. You apologize just to keep the peace. You silence your truth to avoid conflict. You think you're saving the relationship, but she just sees a man who's lost his edge, and her desire fades quietly. Here's the move to reclaim your masculine soul. Stop trying to prove your love. Start asking this simple question before every gesture. Am I doing this because it aligns with who I am, or because I'm afraid to lose her? Then act with strength, not fear. If something feels wrong and she expects you to stay silent, speak up anyway. If she gets upset because you have boundaries, don't move them. If she pulls away because you stop overgiving, let her. Because love that survives only when you betray yourself was never real love. It was control dressed as affection. And a man who wants peace must first reclaim his spine. The man who fears disappointing a woman will always betray himself to please her. But the man who's at peace with walking alone, he becomes the one no woman wants to lose. If you've made it this far, you've done what most men never dare. You've stopped chasing illusions. You've faced not the woman, but yourself. What you saw wasn't weakness. It was strength, still asleep. A fire that had always been there, just waiting for you to light it. Most men walk through life as actors in someone else's play. They speak to be loved. They bend to be kept. They silence their truth in the name of peace, then wonder why they feel hollow. But you've seen through the script. And once you see, you can never unsee. You were not born to shrink for love. You were built to stand, to speak, to shape your world with presence, not permission. You are not here to beg for affection. You are here to become a man whose soul cannot be bought, whose silence cannot be misread, whose presence cannot be ignored. This is not about rejecting love. It's about rising above the love that costs you your essence. You don't owe anyone your softness if it's paid with your spine. From this moment forward, let her admire your truth or leave it behind. But never again dilute your strength to make her stay. If she respects you, she'll rise to meet you. If she doesn't, she was never meant to stand beside you. So stand alone if you must, but never stand small. Because a man who belongs to himself cannot be played. He cannot be bent. He cannot be lost in someone else's story. He is the author now. That is the kind of power Machiavelli respected. Not the loud kind, but the kind that governs quietly, from within. And that, my friend, is where your real domination begins. Not over her, but over the chaos that once ruled your mind. So rise, speak less, move with purpose, and carry the silence of a man who no longer needs to prove, only to lead. Your throne was never out there. It was always in you. Now sit on it. One last message for those who truly want to change their life. For those who are ready to detach from the 99% and play a different game. What I'm working on will change the way women see you and the way you see yourself. It's coming soon, so stay tuned. If this spoke to you, don't just keep it in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share this with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.